Recording in progress. We're live here. Professor Patti, extremely professional. And she's going to be doing our second option for your helper studio. Again, clear as mud. You will end up, who knows, maybe like 400 points worth of assignments. We have had 1,500 points worth of activities, as you have seen if you have been on this wild ride this semester of me trying to have open and available the correct activities. There's so many activities worth so many points, and many of them are worth 3 points. And then randomly, there's an activity just like the rest of them that are worth 150 points. So the textbook itself is just really zany. So in the many iterations of people who have taught this course, because everyone has to take it in our accredited state of Ohio online MSW for LISW, we have pared it down to there are 4 helper studio things we opened just this week inside the book. And you can pick one of them and submit it. And I think it's worth 15 points. So if you don't do it, you can get an 85%. You got 100% on everything else. But we used to do them every week because it's such wonderful practice. And in social work, we work with really protected populations who we are hesitant to do video and audio recording like they do in other professions, because other professions are so oppressive in nature that it's just within their nature to not really care. But within social work, we definitely don't like it. So it's great to do these helper studios and practice forming the words, because as the last AI bot said, I didn't do a very good job. I could be clear in my openings. So we are going to open Carl. And Carl is a middle-aged, single, white male, and he is currently living with brother and family, heroin user accused of stealing. And there's another 3-minute video, and we are going to buckle up, Buttercup. Here comes Carl.
I'm Carl. I'm here because somebody told me you could help me. I'm on the verge of being homeless because I can't stop using heroin. I wasn't always like this. I didn't grow up wanting to shoot heroin. I actually grew up pretty responsible and had a good job most of my life. But now my family's ready to kick me out. A couple years ago, I had an accident. It wasn't my fault. Somebody else hit me. Wasn't fair. They didn't have insurance. And I ended up having some surgeries. Doctors put me on painkillers. And I discovered not only did the painkillers help with the physical pain, but it also kind of helped me with a lot of how upset I was with life. You know, my wife had left me about a year before that. And I felt, you know, the whole situation of not having anybody reimburse me for my car, having all these bills piling up, medical bills and things like that, just had me really angry. And I was a lot calmer when I was, you know, using these painkillers. But the doctors then said, you know, about a year into it, they said, well, okay, that's all. No more painkillers without any warning. And if you've ever been on anything like that, you know, you get sick physically when they stop prescribing. So I had to find a way not to get sick. I knew some people who sold different things, and I was able to start buying some painkillers. And then somebody introduced me to heroin. They said, you know, this will cost you less money and you get a lot more bang for the buck. And the first time it was like, oh my God. So I got so stuck on it. I couldn't stop. I couldn't afford to live my own place anymore. I couldn't work anymore. And family members, they didn't know what was going on, but they knew I needed help, and they let me move in. I moved in with my brother. And I found myself starting to steal. And then all of a sudden, I got caught stealing from family, and they were pissed. So I was all remorseful, and I wasn't going to do it again. But They ended up catching me again. And now they said, you get help or you move out. And so I'm here. I want to stop using heroin. You know, I like using it, but I don't really like it anymore. First, it was fun. It's not fun anymore. So help me stop using heroin and help me get my life back.
Okay. So we're going to go through our practice of the reflection questions. Watch the video and then respond, and be sure to engage in the appropriate steps of the helping process. What are the steps of the helping process? I'm going to guess. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they want me to reflect feelings, assess risk, I'm thinking of a SAMHSA expert program here. So what I'm trying to not do, which I wish I would have done before I started the video, is not panic and just link, right? But we will have to have we'll have to say we're going to want to talk about level of care, least restricted level of care. I can already feel this, right? You want me to help you stop using heroin? I'm going to have a policy. Being a social worker doesn't mean that you suddenly are crowned with this beautiful mantle and then all of a sudden you're like IOP. Impatient, I can feel it. You just have that vibe, right? You will run into people who are doing that. That is not the appropriate steps of the helping process. How would you begin to explore Carl's problems? I'm going to tell you what we're not going to do first. I'll tell you what we're going to do first. I will start there. We are going to begin, I would identify my own discomfort at some of Carl's phrases. Because that was a beautiful case study. And the things that set us off and make us really ineffective at providing services to people with substance use disorders is when we get real hung up on like, well, you're not really taking accountability, are you, sir? And are you mad that you stole, or are you mad that you got caught? And I feel it bubbling up like a stinky burp, right? So when I feel my own discomfort coming up at the story coming in, I think this sounds like a story coming in. And that is such a hurt. When he said heroin and he said car and he said it was so unfair, I was like, pour me another drink. Because I know lots and lots and lots of really old white men in AA, and that's how they treat each other. And that's not clinical. That's a peer support model. And social work is not a peer support model, because peer support comes out of the wreckage of my own past and my experience, strength, and hope. And so if I feel discomfort in a peer support model, I work to understand, how is my healed wound the light and the opening? What parts of me are healed and what parts of me are to share in relationship. So even if you were a peer support worker, you would not start by shaming and blaming. I want to say things that are not social work appropriate. So I identify my own discomfort internally and say, this is really hard. Heroin is really hard. That's what I say out loud to him, because it's uncomfortable. And he just talked about really uncomfortable things. Stealing from your family. I can't imagine anyone ever wants to be in that place. I can name that. Do you see how I'm naming it? And he's like, yeah, I hate it. I hate the feeling. I hate the feeling. People I know who have robbed from their relatives are like so sick over it, they keep going back out. And I don't know any grandmother who's had her wedding ring stolen who's like, I just hope that they stay sick and they keep using and using and using. They say the opposite. I can't believe they did this to me, and they, of all people, and I can't believe they're doing it to other people, and doing it to me wasn't enough. I wish they would stop. This guy's stopping. I don't need to say any of the things. I don't need to say any of the things the brother has said, the family has said, because I'm not the brother. The brother said it. I'm not the family said it. So as a social worker, I'm going to reflect Carl's feelings and say, it sounds like this was unplanned. I don't know anyone who grew up wanting to be a junkie. I think there was a the more you know commercial to that end. And then I say, no reassuring catchphrases of keep it simple, stupid, or the only way out is through. I identify by assessment. Do I have you're going to have a form, you're going to have a policy at your work, you're going to do the paper. I don't need you to imagine it or guess it or recreate it in a video. How would you begin to explore Carl's problems? Identifying discomfort, providing reassurance, and engaging. That is MI motivational interviewing. Every stage it's appropriate, but in preparation, I want to make a change. I don't know how to make a change. I didn't do that on purpose. What stage of change is he in? I don't know how to make the change. Action is I'm making this change. Preparation is they told me you were going to know what to do about this change. Contemplation, I might have a problem. I'm not really sure. This guy knows he's got a problem, right? What stage is he in? So what am I doing? I'm going to be providing reassurance and engaging. And if he's in preparation, I'm going to be developing discrepancy. Why would I developing discrepancy? Because I'm developing discrepancy between the things you want. I want to not be on heroin. I want it to be fair. I can't bear the pain of all these things. If you felt all these things, you wouldn't be able to bear it either. Heroin has been this answer, right? What barriers? Ambivalence. I am holding two balls in my hand and they're going up and down. That is the definition of ambivalence in motivational interviewing. What barriers to goal accomplishment? Ambivalence. You can put whatever you want on these things. I want you to be thinking about it, and then talking in a short response, save answers, confirm, submit. Are you done? Of course you're not done. We're going to record another thing and you're going to talk as if Carl is here. And the way things I'm going to respond to are the things I put right here. But look, I submitted those reflection questions, so I don't have them. So I want to put maybe something about ambivalence. Because it doesn't matter if I understand what it is or what it means. That's why I can talk about motivational interviewing that way, because it doesn't matter if I know it and my patient doesn't. And it doesn't matter if I know it and I can't explain to my patient what it is. I want them to have more words for their feelings. I had a little kid trying to act out feelings on her own game because she thought I was a psychic. She said, "Are you a psychic?" And I said, "I am." She said, "Great. What is this one?" And her brother had said, "You're a feelings doctor." And she said, "Oh, what's this one? What's this one? What's this one?" Top notch work. Better than most 45-year-old men I've ever worked with, right? And it's very fun for her. And she goes, "I don't know what this one's called, but it's when I want people to play with me, but they don't want to." I said, "Is it lonely?" And she went, "That's the one." She just needed me to name it. Our inner child is still alive in here with the same central nervous system. So trying on the feeling is how we get there, and explaining it how it feels is how I do it. So this is what I'm going to do with this patient. Ready? Carl. To begin with, I want to just say, when you're saying things like you hit this low of stealing from your family, you hit another low of like getting caught, they confronted you on it. This sounds like dredging, wreckage, grumbling. Oh my goodness. This is the homelessness situation. The heroin, I've never used it. I'm afraid of drugs. For people who use heroin, one of the things I know about them is they don't like to feel anything. So usually people who have resorted to that to try to cover, to me, their lives just feel like they have a sunburn all the time, and they just would rather feel nothing. So if you're not using right now, I would imagine you're feeling very raw. And if you're coming down or staying well, that's something, being someone who assesses substance abuse, we've got forms for, right? But for the engagement and for our relationship and understanding what I'm going to be doing with you as your social worker, it's a social work relationship. I want to understand you better. I want you to understand me better. Today's going to be a lot of assessments. It sounds like this was an unplanned journey for you. In the rooms, I don't like to use a lot of lingo, but they do say no one lands there on a victory lap. I'm so sorry. I know that this is not, no one ever wants to meet me. And it's so sad. And I meet people on their worst day, but I am glad I got to meet you. And I hope that we can get through this and find something that feels like a little bit of relief. I hear you like this. You're juggling the balls. There's the accident and the car and the finances and the ability and the work and the family and it just feels like so much, and you just want relief. And you also want relief, right? The only relief that has been available to you has been chemical, and you want relief in all the other ways. And now we can't even really function in life. So how do we do this? How do we put this down? It sounds like it's something you're wanting. I want to know, what if we don't? Are we looking at medication assisted treatment? Are we looking at detox? Are we looking at those kinds of things? I want to know what it is we're really looking at, and what is our why bother? Then we put a check mark on it. Then we let it buffer, prepare submission, and we take a deep breath and we sip our tea, because it's just buffering the video. It's not breaking. It's not going to crash. As my 2-year-old granddaughter would say, smell the flowers. Blow out the candles. Prepare for the next chapter. If you are joining me, hello. I don't know what else you have going on if you want to watch me talk about Social Work 505 at Cleveland State University. This is Introduction to Individualized Practice with Individuals, Families, and Groups. So if you would like to get your master's in social work, this is in the first semester if you're full-time. You have policy, human behavior in the social work or in the social environment. This course, which is Introduction to Practice, it's about engagement, assessment, termination, social work roles. 0 unclear words, 20 filler words. Did you give me an analysis? Okay, is it submitted? It is. It's pending evaluation, but you can see it, and you could do a peer review with a rubric and give me points, give each other points. How exciting is that?